Is London a dangerous place to live? This question can sometimes be conjectural, but reliable opinions can still be formed based on hard facts devoid of speculating or conjecturing. And from those facts, I can answer no to the question, is London a dangerous place to live? At the same time, if the question is rephrased, is London a safe place to live? My answer could still be no. Why? In the actual sense, is anywhere absolutely safe to live in the world? Even the safest place in the world can have some degree of danger. Isn't that the reason why almost all countries and cities have police? For you to be able to answer the question your way, this video analyses some beats for you. Crime rate in London. The rate of crime in London is reportedly higher than the average crime rate in Europe. The city also has one of the highest crime rates in the UK. Does that make it a dangerous place to live? Not necessarily. A higher crime rate is a peculiarity of popular capital cities. When compared to other European popular cities, London's crime rate is just average. The Economist's Safe Cities Index ranked London as the 14th safest city in the world, even though the crime rate in the UK capital has been increasing. The city's 2020 average crime rate of 101.48 crimes per 1,000 was no doubt too high. In the following year, that ended March 2021, the rate dropped to 83.3 crime offences per 1,000 people. In that year, over 145 homicides were committed in London. This was 23 more than the previous year and second only to North West England. In summary, the crime reported in London in 2020-2021 totaled 746,126, while violent crimes reported in the same year were 218,046. Despite these high figures, London is not a dangerous place to live. To make the city less dangerous and safer, there are 33,803 police officers in London, while 25,676 were employed as frontline officers by the Metropolitan Police in 2021. During the same year, 319,490 stop and searches were performed in London. Commonest crimes and their degrees. We still need more conviction to arrive at a position about whether or not London is a dangerous place. So let's check the severity of crime in each beat. How risky are transportation and taxis in London? Taxis, tubes and other forms of transportation in the city are known to be very safe and reliable. Of course, some risks are expected to be associated with transportation in such a city in a developed European country. Yet the transportation and taxis risk in London is medium. What about pickpocketing risk? Pickpocketing is a street crime and it's not an uncommon thing in London. Some locations there, mainly popular landmarks, are actually notorious for pickpocketing. If you focus on those areas alone, you may consider London a dangerous place to live. However, the risk is medium and is only peculiar to tourists. If you take basic precaution measures, you can reduce your chances of being pickpocketed. Mugging risk is medium. Mugging and kidnapping are everywhere. However, London is relatively safe when it comes to these. It's just that you need to be a bit careful when in dangerous areas of London where you could fall victim. Scams risk. If you're living in London, the chances of being scammed are very low, but there are scammers preying on tourists who throng the city. It only makes sense that the scammers would capitalise on tourists' ignorance and take the advantage of their need for basic services. As a resident, however, it's a different ballgame once you're cautious with people who want to distract you. Those trying to help you with your luggage or groups of people acting somehow may scam you. Thus, always double-check your change and negotiate everything in advance. Above all, beware of internet fraud since many things will be done online. Women travellers risk. London is mostly safer for women to live or travel to. Once you follow your basic common sense, the city is safer for women than many other European cities. Terrorism risk. When terrorism is the consideration, London in recent times has become a dangerous place to live. It's been targeted by a terrorist group. It's now in the public domain in that the threat of terrorism to the UK as a whole is severe. For that reason, the UK's capital's terrorism risk is very high. Natural disasters risk. The risk of natural disasters is very low in London. Apart from constant rain and fickleness of whether you can relax in London and be the least concerned about natural disasters, there are no threats. Safest places in London. I said earlier that the question about whether London is a dangerous place or a safe place to live can be conjectural. This is because we're talking about a big and varied city here. As you see huge figures of crime rates in London, you don't have to assume that the spate of crimes spread evenly in the city. Some areas of London have much lower crime rates than the average for the city. While pickpocketing, mugging and terrorism may occur more often in central London, the areas that are a little out of central are generally known to be safer. But don't worry, with the city's great transport links, you can live in these less dangerous areas and rate London as a safe place to live. According to reliable data, here are the safest areas of London with their crime rates. Richmond is an affluent town and residential district at the boundary of the River Thames. Famous for its Kew Garden and Richmond Park, the crime rate is 54 per 1,000 people. Another safe area is Bexley, a borough in the southeast that forms a part of outer London. With its main settlement of Sidcup, Bexley Heath, Erith Crayford, Welling and Old Bexley, the crime rate there is 56 per 1,000 people. Kingston upon Thames is a bit more popular area of London, also with a low crime rate of 57 per 1,000 people. Sutton, the principal town in the London borough of Sutton, lies on the lower slopes of the North Downs. The crime rate here is 57 crimes per 1,000 people. In the large town of Harrow in Greater London, the crime rate is 63 crimes per 1,000 people. Kentish Town is one of the safest and trendiest places in London. The Safer Neighbourhoods team, the SNT, a security outfit in Kentish Town, is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that residents in the town can safely get around at all times. Most dangerous places in London. The most dangerous places in London are the ones that give the city a bad image as a dangerous place to live. If the rate of crime in the safest places in London are maintained throughout the UK capital, there will be no question around how safe the city is. Unfortunately, the areas with higher crime rates have crime rates that are as high as 2 to 4 times the safest areas' rates. Here are the most dangerous areas according to reliable official data. Consider first Islington in inner London with a crime rate of 125.6 crimes per 1,000 people. It is worse than that in Hammersmith, the artsy riverside and home to eclectic productions, and Fulham, an upmarket residential area famous for trendy shopping streets. The crime rates in these areas are 129.2 crimes per 1,000 people. This is followed by Kensington and Chelsea with a crime rate of 153.9 per 1,000 people. In Camden Town, famed for its market and counterculture, the crime rate is 154.2 crimes per 1,000 people. It's one of the most dangerous places to live in London, where you can be mugged and lose your phone. Finally, in Westminster, the rate is 321.4 crimes per 1,000 people. According to the Churchill Group, Westminster for years in a row has been the most dangerous part of London. Pickpocketing and mugging are quite common here. How to stay safe in London. Those living in London are conscious of their environment and are trying to follow several safety tips as much as they could. Emulate them and take responsibility for your safety. Stay away from empty streets and alleys and beware of distraction tactics. When travelling around the city, always plan your route before you set out. Don't ostentatiously wear your headphones or display your gadgets. In crowded areas, hold your valuables and bags close to your body. Look around to be sure that no one is looking over your shoulder when drawing out money. Use common sense to evaluate your surroundings. If something doesn't feel right where you are, just walk away. So, is London a dangerous place to live? What is your conclusion? I will tell you that London, like other European cities, has some dangerous elements that can make you tag it a dangerous place to live. But if you must be objective overall, you would say that London is not a dangerous place to live. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to smash subscribe button. Goodbye and stay safe. This is Learning Canteen.